An FBI warning notes that federal law provides severe civil and criminal penalties for the unauthorized reproduction, distribution, or exhibition of copyrighted motion pictures, videotapes, or video discs. A logo appears, a C, black against white, and an E, white against black. Cambridge Educational. Next, a series of video images. A student lights a Bunsen burner under a flask. Another, wearing goggles, observes liquid in a beaker. A student squeezes a rubber bulb attached to tubing. He stands several feet away from material in a paint can, which erupts in flame. Science Laboratory Safety. A student narrates next to a lab table while another student stirs liquid in a beaker.
It's a simple experiment, mixing two liquids together to create a solid. Nothing too difficult, but interesting nevertheless. The science lab is a place where we can see the wonders of science up close.
A microscope.
Remarkable things happen in laboratories. Scientists have discovered causes for some diseases and developed medical treatments in laboratories. Things we use every day, plastics for instance, got their start in a laboratory. And scientists continue to work on developing life-changing, sometimes life-saving materials right here in a laboratory.
Students wear goggles.
This is really an exciting place, but, and this is important, you must follow certain safety rules to keep the lab safe for you and for everyone else who's going to be working with you.
Safety checklist. A student dons a lab apron. Another scrubs her arms.
Yes, safety rules may sound like a boring checklist that's going to waste your time, but it won't. It's a smart checklist that could save you and your partner a lot of trouble, and maybe even keep you two from becoming seriously injured. As part of that checklist, we're going to tell you the do's and don'ts of lab clothing, outline safety cautions that everyone should be familiar with, and tell you what to do in case there's an accident. Before you open the first bottle of chemicals, there are basic rules you should know. Never work in the lab alone. Always perform experiments with the lab partner. Never perform experiments without the supervision of a teacher or authorized lab supervisor. Before you come into this room, be sure to leave drinks, foods, purses, anything other than lab notebooks or lab manuals should be stored away. But the most important thing to remember is to stay alert and have a positive attitude. It's just as important as any lab equipment you'll ever use. And knowing what's going on around you can help keep you and your other students out of serious danger or trouble, whichever comes first. Different labs and different experiments require different equipment and different approaches.
Dress the part.
Sometimes students in a chem lab will have to be fully dressed in protective gear. Experiments in a physical science lab may not be so demanding. The specific instructions for each situation will be issued by your teacher, but there are general rules you must learn before proceeding with any experiment in the laboratory.
General rules. A girl ties back her long hair.
Keep loose hair tied back and don't wear any baggy or loose clothing. A good idea for most labs, a must for chemistry. Loose-fitting clothes and dangly hair and apparel may look cool and comfortable in the hallway, but in the lab, where you'll be experimenting with caustic chemicals and flame, these items can be dangerous, even deadly. Where possible, you should wear long pants as an added protection for your skin against lab spills and other accidents. Sandals, open-toed shoes, and your favorite sneakers with the big old holes, they just don't get in the lab. Shoes should be closed-toed and sturdy enough to protect your feet if something gets splashed, broken, or dropped in the wrong place.
A broken test tube.
Goggles are pretty standard safety gear. Well, maybe not pretty, but they are standard. They protect your eyes from your experiment, and the experiment that someone else is performing beside you, and the experiment performed 2 tables away from you. Splashes and splats and flying objects have a way of traveling to unwelcome areas. And yes, you need to wear goggles even if you wear glasses. Contact lenses should not be worn in the lab at all, but where it is absolutely necessary, and glasses cannot be substituted. Contact lens wearers should add a sticker to their goggles. This alerts everyone that you're wearing contacts in case you're hurt, and you can't tell anyone yourself.
Contact lenses in use.
Lab aprons may not be decorative, but they protect you and your clothing. Be sure they are on securely. Nothing says I'm a real scientist like gloves. Okay, maybe they don't say you're a real scientist, but they do say that your hands are protected from heat or dangerous substances you'll be working with. Different types of exercises may require different types of gloves. Rubber or plastic gloves are for working with certain substances, while heat-resistant gloves are used when heating things or handling heated lab utensils and glassware. Your instructor will tell you the type you should use. Make sure they don't have any cracks or holes in them. Be sure to take them off before you grab a door or a pen or some pencils. You could be spreading chemicals every time you touch something with the gloves.
She wears goggles, gloves, and an apron.
Prevention is the main ingredient to staying safe. Your chances of having an accident are less if you follow standard safety gear requirements.
Act the part. Several metal instruments are displayed, including tweezers, scissors, and a
So
scalpel.
the best way to address accidents in the laboratory is to avoid them by using your head, staying alert, and having the right attitude about what you are doing. People can become seriously injured in a lab. Keep that in mind every time you walk. Don't run through the door. You need to know where your safety equipment is now. That way, in the excitement of an accident, you won't be running around looking for it. For starters, each lab should have a first aid kit. Take a moment to locate it now and remember where it is. Make sure you know where to find the fire extinguisher. It's probably hanging on the wall in an obvious place. When unexpected flames erupt, remove it from the wall, pull the pin, aim at the base of the fire, and squeeze the handle until the flames are extinguished. Know the proper fire drill procedures and know the locations of fire exits. Not all fires can be extinguished by the same fire extinguisher. The letters A, B, or C indicate the types of fires these particular extinguishers can put out. Wood fires require an A designation.
A. Wood.
Liquids need a B rated unit.
B. Liquids.
And electrical fires should be extinguished with a C rated extinguisher.
C. Electrical.
Most labs use multi-purpose extinguishers that can be used on fires regardless of their fuel source. Not all fires will need a fire extinguisher. Sometimes you can smother the flames, such as small flames in a container. You can pop a lid on it and the fire is out. Look around for the fire blanket right now. It's probably just what it sounds like, a blanket you use to smother a fire. You need to be careful with these. Wrapping them around a person who's on fire could force the flames from the body up towards the face and neck. Eye wash stations and safety showers are required in chemistry labs and most photographic labs where eye and skin damage from chemicals are present. They will be clearly marked with signs.
Liquid spilled on a student.
If you are burned, if caustic or other hazardous materials are spilled on you or merely comes in contact with your skin, you should immediately begin to wash the area with water and send a lab partner to get the teacher. A safety shower should be close by. It may be necessary to remove your contaminated clothing. Safety in this case comes before modesty.
Showering with clothes
Whether
on.
fully clothed or not, it is important to begin the washing process immediately. This is not your normal shower. There's no soap, and the water has only one temperature, cold. Different types of eye wash stations operate in different ways. Find out how to use yours and practice. If a chemical is splashed into your eyes, an eye wash station is also nearby. If you can find your way to the station, bow your head to activate the flow. Often the water is activated by stepping on a foot pedal. If you cannot see to make your way to the eye wash station, shout for a fellow student to lead you there. Remember, don't be shy. Be decisive and quick. It could save your eyesight. Know if there is a telephone in the room and what numbers to dial for help. Those emergency numbers should be posted beside the phone.
Alternate exits.
Find out if there's a second or third exit from the lab. Check windows to determine if they can be used for quick departure. That information is needed before an emergency develops. Now that you know what to do in case of trouble, you're ready to begin experimenting, testing, and getting an up-close view of science. The first thing you should always do is know what you're doing. Sounds simple enough. Know the activity, know what you need, and know where to get it. Read directions before you start your activity, and make sure you understand them. And remember, stay alert.
Understand
As
directions.
you read through those directions, you're going to come across these. Symbols that should alert you to dangers associated with laboratory activities. Know what they mean. Don't guess.
Glassware.
Glassware hazard means breakable stuff. Handle with care.
A lightning bolt.
Electrical hazard or sparks. Use particular caution when dealing with this electrical equipment. Eye hazard means you need to be careful of flying objects or splashes. Use eye protection whenever you see this.
Goggles. Then a flame.
You'll see the fire hazard symbol when you are dealing with flammable materials. Poisons can even do you harm through your skin. This means you need to wear protective clothing. Two symbols indicate you need to pay particular attention to your hands. Wear protective gear. and pay attention to how your hands may be injured by that particular experiment.
Gloves and a finger
Foot
bandage.
protection indicates you should wear those good, sturdy, closed-toe shoes that we mentioned earlier.
A rabbit drawing.
Animal safety and animal care. This symbol reminds you to use caution when handling animals during observation or experiment.
A leafy bough.
Plant safety. Some plants could be poisonous.
A bottle emitting fumes.
Toxic fumes may be present when you see this gas protection symbol. Many experiments which result in potential fume hazards require experimentation to be conducted under exhaust hoods that provide extra ventilation. Always practice sharp instrument safety, but pay special attention to it when this symbol is present.
An X-Acto knife. Then 3 red blocks around a red circle.
Radioactive substances can cause damage to you, even when you don't even know it. Radioactivity cannot be seen, smelled, or generally detected by the human senses. Protection from radioactivity involves lead shielding to your body, eyes, and hands. If radioactive materials are used in your laboratory, special lead-lined clothing will be available.
Lightning bolts from 2 horizontal plates.
Finally, this symbol indicates an explosion hazard. This symbol means the substance is volatile, even without the presence of other chemicals. While these signs alert you to the dangers of the accompanying materials, it is important to remember that even chemicals that are not dangerous may exhibit one or more of these hazards when mixed or used in combination with other substances. In addition to these symbols, all chemical containers you'll be working with display health fire safety diamonds, which indicate the level of hazard the material represents. Other important information about these substances is contained in the material safety data sheets, which are kept in your classroom, chemical storage rooms, and in the principal's office. These MSDS sheets provide in-depth information about each chemical available in your lab. Read labels on containers before you open them. Lots of things look alike, but making a big mistake can spell big trouble. When you've concluded your experiment, it is equally important to properly dispose of it. When something comes out of its original container, it doesn't go back. That is, unless your teacher says it's okay. Don't dump extra or unused materials down the sink. Nothing goes down a drain unless it has been deactivated or neutralized and approved by your teacher or lab supervisor. In addition to creating another hazard, government regulations are very specific about proper disposal of such substances. The EPA classifies waste by their reaction characteristics. Flammable items go with flammables. Acids with acids. These materials are temporarily disposed of in approved containers for permanent disposal by your teacher or other authorized person.
With a microscope.
You'll be working with lots of different equipment in the lab. Always be sure to handle the equipment with care, like this microscope. When carrying it, be sure to put one hand right up here on the arm and another underneath for support. A little slip and you could either break this expensive microscope or your foot. Ugh.
She shudders.
Always inspect whatever you're going to use before you use it. Take a close look at any beakers or other glassware before you use them. If they're broken, chipped, or cracked, tell your instructor and get another beaker. Electrical cords are not supposed to be frayed. Don't use any tool with a bad cord. Hoses should be free of holes or other wear. Don't turn on the gas if there is damage, and be sure to report the problem immediately.
A hose on a gas nozzle.
Learn the correct way to operate your lab's equipment and tools, like a burner. Turn on the gas and light it away from you. When you've concluded your experiment, turn off the gas.
Next, a green parrot in a
Suppose
cage.
your lab equipment includes a live animal. Treat the animal with care and respect. Its safety is important too. Whether you're observing an animal or just taking your turn feeding it, use caution. Animals can be unpredictable. They could bite or run away. Don't remove one from its cage unless necessary. Again, gloves will be available when handling animals to reduce the risk of being bitten and help keep your hands clean. When removing an animal from a cage, you can keep it from escaping by making sure the lab doors and windows are closed. And when returning an animal to its cage, take care not to hurt the animal or yourself. Always follow instructions about handling live animals. Respect them. Don't mistreat them. Remember to wash your hands after you've handled an animal or its cage, even when you've worn gloves. In fact, hand washing is a must before and after any laboratory activity or experiment. Always keep your work area neat and clean. It's just another way to be safe. Your workspace should not be cluttered with unnecessary textbooks, leftover chemical, or glassware. And when you're finished with your experiment, make sure all the gas, electrical connections, and water faucets are turned off. There are lots of things to do in a laboratory. You get to mix chemicals and see what happens. Experiment with different materials to learn how those substances interact.
Dried plants.
Study animal and plant life. Lots of interesting things. And then there are lots of things that you should not do.
A student drinks a soda.
Don't eat or drink in here. Never, ever eat or drink from lab glassware. You could get sick from traces that could be in a beaker. Don't play practical jokes. Hiding equipment, switching chemicals, or other pranks could put you and everyone else in the room at risk. And don't perform any mad scientist acts, like mixing chemicals without your instructor's permission. All activities in a laboratory need to be controlled. If you're out of control, you're putting everyone in danger. Let's say you followed all of the rules, did everything you were supposed to do, and there's still an accident. Uh-oh.
Inform an authority. An apron student speaks with an adult.
The number one thing to do in the event of an accident, tell your teacher or supervisor. Regardless of how minor the accident appears, it is necessary to inform the teacher immediately. Follow his or her directions. Don't try to clean up a mess by yourself and keep it a secret. Certain chemicals need to be disposed of in a certain way. Even paper towels used to clean certain chemicals must be separated from other paper wastes. And, as already mentioned, something as simple as pouring a chemical down the drain could lead to more trouble. And even if the slip-up seems minor, report it. At times, the teacher may not be in the room. Don't panic.
A candle at the end of a yardstick.
Remember, stay alert and cool. You know where the emergency equipment is. Fire extinguisher, fire blanket, eyewash station, safety shower, and telephone. Again, don't write off anything. Make sure your teacher knows about all accidents, big or little.
Summary. Students with goggles perform experiments.
The laboratory is a place where you can experiment, learn, and answer questions. It puts science right in your hands. The lab is also a place where terrible things can happen if something goes wrong. That is why it is important to do everything possible to avoid
A
accidents.
student dons goggles.
Learn the proper ways to protect yourself and always follow directions. Understand the procedures and equipment involved in your experiment. Know where to find safety equipment and how to use it. And above all, respect the dangers that are around you. Stay alert. Use your head and have the right attitude about this room. It's a great place. Great things have come from laboratories. Chances are, some of your most valuable learning experiences will be in a lab, just like this one. If you learn to be safety conscious, you've already chalked up one valuable lesson.
5 students wear goggles while performing experiments at a lab table. A sink is in the middle. Against a still image of a beaker and other lab equipment, credits scroll including executive producer E. Ty Gardner, script Kathy Young-Carney, producer Tim Sharp, video editor and videography Mitch Sayer, narrator Angela Lattimore. Copyright MCM XC VIII or 1998, Cambridge Research Group Limited.